I wasn't supposed to be home that early. Fridays were usually my longer gym days, an hour of weights, 30 minutes of cardio, maybe a protein shake and a shower at the facility before heading back. It was part of my routine, and Kate knew that. We both liked routines. They made life feel stable. But that day, something felt off. I'd been distracted at the gym, half-assing my sets, skipping cardio altogether. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I had this low-level restlessness, like when you forget something important but can't remember what. So I wrapped up early and headed home. The street was quiet, same as always. It was getting dark, blue hour, when the sky still held light but the houses glowed amber from the inside. I pulled into the driveway and sat there for a moment, watching the wind rustle the neighbor's tree. I don't know why I didn't get out of the car right away. Maybe I was procrastinating, maybe just tired. Maybe, subconsciously, I sensed what was coming. And that's when I noticed it. The house across the street had a big window on the second floor, part of a weird architectural remodel the owners had done a few years ago. What I hadn't really registered before was that during this time of day, just the right angle, just the right lighting, you could catch glimpses of the houses behind it. Reflections, just like a mirror. In that strange, accidental mirror, I saw my own bedroom window. And in that reflection was Kate. She was standing near the foot of the bed, a hand resting on the shoulder of someone else. A man, tall, broad. His back was turned to me, so I couldn't see his face, but I didn't need to. My eyes weren't on him anyway. They were locked on her. She wasn't moving away. She wasn't surprised. His hand traced the curve of her back in a way no stranger would do. And she let him. I froze. Not the kind of dramatic freeze you see in movies, but a numb, hollow stillness. My hands were on the steering wheel, gripping tight. My breath had gone shallow. I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. My brain kept trying to rewrite it, rationalize it. Maybe it was a cousin, contractor. Maybe I misread the body language. Maybe. The reflection shifted. Curtain was drawn. The moment vanished, like a mirage. But it was enough. By the time I got out of the car and walked up the front steps, the numbness had settled into something heavier. Confusion. Maybe. Not yet anger. Just a strange, slow disbelief. I wasn't sure what kind of confrontation I was walking into. My heartbeat was steady, but my hands were cold. I opened the door. She was in the kitchen. Blanket around her shoulders, a glass of wine in one hand, phone in the other, jazz playing from the speaker in the corner. One of those lo-fi playlists we used to put on during stay-in dates. She looked up and smiled like nothing was out of place. "Hey babe," she said, her voice soft. "You're early." I blinked. She was glowing from the kitchen light, like a portrait of comfort. It was almost too perfect. "Workout cut short," I replied, walking in slowly. She sipped her wine, then leaned against the counter like this was just another night. I was just relaxing. Long day. I didn't say anything. She must have seen the hesitation on my face because her smile faltered for half a second. Then she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, something she always did when buying time, and said casually, "Oh, by the way, you might have seen someone upstairs earlier. Totally random, I was helping Ben with his bathroom remodel. You remember Ben, right? From the office? He just dropped by for a quick chat about tiles. I told him to swing by since it's on his way home." I didn't remember any Ben. She took another sip. "You looked like you were staring at something outside. Did you see us?" I didn't respond right away, just nodded slightly. "Oh my God, Jack." She laughed. Light, practiced. "Don't be weird. Seriously. He just stopped in to show me a sample and left like 10 minutes ago. You probably saw that." I was still standing, still trying to process. She walked toward me and wrapped an arm around my side. The blanket brushed my arm, and I could smell that citrus lavender detergent she always used. Familiar, comfortable, fake. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah. You seem off." "I'm fine." She looked at me for a beat too long, then turned back toward the stove. "Anyway, I'm thinking takeout tonight. You want Thai or Indian?" It was that fast. The conversation, the tone, the topic pivoted like a pro. That's what struck me the most. Not the hand on her back. Not the fact that another man was in my house. But how seamless the cover story came out of her mouth. No stutter. No guilt. Not even a hint of fear. She knew exactly what she'd seen in my face, and she already had a story prepared for it. I watched her open the food delivery app on her phone and hum along with the music. Her back was to me now, moving around the kitchen like everything was normal. And for some reason, I said nothing. No accusations. No confrontation. I just stood there, letting the silence stretch between us. Part of me wanted to believe her. Really, genuinely wanted to believe that this wasn't what it looked like. That it was all in my head. A mistake. A trick of light and distance and suspicion. But something deeper had already shifted. Quiet realization. A truth that didn't need to be said. Because the most damning part of that moment wasn't what I saw in the window. It was how easy it was for her to lie about it. That night, I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, wide awake. Kate had fallen asleep quickly, like she always did. Her breathing was slow and even. Her body curled away from mine like a comma. We used to fall asleep touching, our fingers brushing, or her foot tucked behind my ankle. But lately, it was like there was an invisible line drawn down the middle of the bed, and neither of us crossed it anymore. I couldn't stop thinking about the reflection, about how natural it had looked, the way she leaned into him. Not a sudden movement, not an accidental lean. It was soft, habitual, familiar, and her explanation, Ben from the office. Some tile samples. Who just stops by someone's bedroom to talk tiles? She said it like it was obvious, like I was crazy for even questioning it. I should have pressed her, asked more questions. But I didn't. I just nodded like an idiot and let her move the conversation along. Now, in the dark, the silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was loaded, weighted, and with every passing minute, something in me started to loosen. It was like a thread got pulled in my mind, and memories started to unravel. One after another, quiet, almost forgotten moments came back with a clarity that made my stomach twist. It started with the running. Kate had never liked running. When we were first dating, she called it torture disguised as exercise. Her thing was Pilates, long walks, yoga on weekends. But about 5 months ago, she suddenly started running 3 or 4 times a week, always in the evenings, always alone. She said it helped her clear her head. At first, I admired it. Thought maybe she was trying to challenge herself. She bought new gear, expensive running shoes, wireless headphones, even a belt for her phone and keys. She downloaded an app and tracked her pace obsessively. But I never once saw her come back sweaty. Never heard her complain about sore legs. And the runs started getting longer, 45 minutes, then an hour, then sometimes more. I remember thinking at the time, she's either training for a marathon or for something else entirely. Then there was her phone. She used to be careless with it. Left it on the coffee table, plugged it in overnight in the kitchen, asked me to check her texts when her hands were full. But somewhere along the way that changed. It became an extension of her. Always locked, always face down, and always within reach. One night, I reached for her phone by reflex when mine died. I was going to use the calculator to check our joint expenses, and she flinched. Flinched. "Oh, sorry," she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "I've got some confidential client stuff in there. NDA stuff. You know how work is." That was the first time I noticed the password had changed. We never really had privacy boundaries before. If she was watching a show, I'd scroll through her photos to find the one from our trip to Maine. If I needed to Google something and my phone was dead, I'd use hers. No secrets, no tension, until there were. She changed the password to her laptop too. I asked her once, jokingly, what it was, and she just smiled. "New policy at work," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "All our devices have to be secured now. You wouldn't want me to get fired, right?" I smiled back, but something in me tensed. Then came the friend. It started with a package. A thin, rectangular box, handwritten label, no brand name. I brought it in from the porch one afternoon, thinking it was something she ordered. When I handed it to her, her reaction was off. Surprised, but not in the happy way. Almost startled. "Oh," she said, taking it quickly. "It's just something from a friend. She's a designer. Sends me samples sometimes." I didn't think much of it until a few weeks later when another package arrived. Then a third. Sometimes flowers. Once, an expensive leather-bound notebook she said came from a coworker who appreciated her help on a project. But I never met this friend. She never mentioned a name. No photos, no social media tags. Nothing. Just vague explanations that didn't quite connect. One afternoon, while doing laundry, I noticed a receipt poking out from her jeans pocket. I wasn't snooping, it was just there, half stuck in the lint trap. 2 glasses of wine, an appetizer, and dessert. A place downtown I knew well. A quiet, dimly lit restaurant tucked away near the river. The kind of place people don't go for work lunches. I asked her about it. She didn't miss a beat. "Oh, that," she said, laughing. "That was ages ago. I had lunch with Claire, you remember her, from my old team. She's going through a breakup, and I figured a good meal would cheer her up." I nodded, but I couldn't shake the fact that she hadn't mentioned it at the time. Kate loved to talk about her friend's drama. She told stories about Claire crying over guys before, with every detail. Why had this lunch gone unmentioned? I tried to let it go. But then I noticed little things. Lipstick smudges on coffee cups in her car. A faint cologne I didn't recognize on the passenger seat headrest. Once, a receipt in the glove box from a gas station way out of town. Somewhere we never go. She said she took the long way back from her mom's house. Stopped for gas, no big deal. But it all started piling up. One night, while she was in the shower, I walked past her purse on the dining room chair and saw a small envelope sticking out. Inside was a folded note on hotel stationery. Just one line, scribbled in handwriting that wasn't hers. "Last night was exactly what I needed. You make me feel like myself again." I never asked. Couldn't. Because if I asked and she lied, I'd know for sure. And if she told the truth, well, that would break something I wasn't ready to let go of. Now, lying there in the dark, all of it came crashing back. Every moment I dismissed, every excuse I had swallowed. I thought about the way her mood had shifted over the past few months. The random bursts of energy. The new music she started listening to. The way she started humming to herself again. Like someone in love. But not with me. And I realized something simple and awful. Distrust doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't just show up one morning like a headache. It builds, brick by brick, moment by moment, excuse by excuse. It grows in the gaps left behind by silence. In the questions that don't get answered. In the tiny fractures you pretend not to see because you're too scared to admit the foundation might be crumbling. I turned to look at her. She looked peaceful. Still. Like someone without a single secret in the world. And maybe that's what scared me most. Because now, even her sleep looked like a lie. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe, but it was shallow. There was a hollow spot in my chest I hadn't noticed before. Like something had been taken and I hadn't even felt it go. And for the first time since we got married, I didn't feel safe next to her. I didn't feel like I knew who she was. And worse, I wasn't sure I ever really had. It started with the mailbox. That old, slightly rusted thing at the end of our driveway. I'd been meaning to replace it for over a year. Kate had even circled a modern steel one in a home magazine and left it open on the counter once. A not-so-subtle nudge. I told her I'd get around to it, and like a lot of things, I never did. That morning, I went to check the mail like I always did, barefoot, coffee in one hand, mind still foggy. Bills. Flyers. A thin envelope with no return address, no markings. Plain white, but weighted slightly in my hand. I held it up to the light, for shapes inside. Photographs. I don't know why my stomach tightened before I even opened it. Instinct, maybe. Dread disguised as curiosity. I opened it right there on the porch. For glossy 4x6 photos slid into my hand, and just like that, the world quieted. Even the birds stopped sounding like birds. Even the wind paused in the trees. The first photo was the lobby of a hotel in St. Paul. I knew it, the Parkwell, an upscale spot we'd stayed at once for our anniversary. Kate was standing in the center of the frame, wearing her favorite black trench coat, the one with the wide collar and gold zipper. Her hair was down. She was smiling at someone just outside the frame. But not for long. The second photo zoomed in. Now I saw him. The same man from the reflection. Not a blur this time. Tall, clean-cut, mid-30s maybe, with a sharp jaw and a cocky tilt to his posture. They were sitting on the hotel terrace. 2 glasses of red wine, an untouched appetizer, and her left hand, resting lightly on his knee. Not the way friends touch. Not the way co-workers touch. The third photo hit harder. They were in an elevator caught mid-exit. Her hair was a little messy, slightly tousled, like she'd run her fingers through it one too many times. He was adjusting his shirt sleeves, and the shirt itself, blue, slim fit, was identical to one I'd seen hanging on our coat rack a few weeks earlier. I remember asking her about it. "Oh, that's not mine," she said at the time. "Might be one of your friends? Didn't your cousin stay over last month?" I nodded. Stupid. The fourth photo wasn't just a blow. It was the ground crumbling beneath my feet. A rental car parking lot, late afternoon light, both of them standing by the open driver's side door. He had one hand on the small of her back, pulling her closer. She tilted her head up. Their lips met. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't cautious. It was bold, unhidden, like they didn't care who saw. No wedding ring on her finger. I stared at that last photo longer than the rest. I don't know how long I stood there, barefoot in the driveway, holding the pieces of my life like they were evidence in a trial I hadn't even realized I was in. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't surprised. Somehow that hurt more. I didn't go inside right away. I sat on the front step for a while, the photos resting on my thigh, like they were part of me now. I felt something sharp inside my chest. Not sadness, not anger, just a cold kind of finality. Like a door that had been slowly creaking open for months had finally swung wide. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. It was real. And worse. She'd lied to my face, looked me in the eye and said, "Tile samples." I got up slowly, walked inside, and went straight to the bedroom. She was out running errands. Or at least that's what she said. I didn't bother tracking her location. I didn't check her phone. I didn't care. I wasn't looking for confrontation. I was done with questions. I was done needing answers. I opened the closet and pulled down the small navy blue suitcase she always used when we traveled. I placed it gently on the bed. Then I started folding. Shirts first. The black one she loved. The green one I always said brought out her eyes. Her favorite jeans. A few blouses. The pair of heels she claimed hurt her feet but always wore anyway. A bottle of her perfume. Something French I never learned to pronounce. I wasn't spiteful about it. I wasn't dramatic. I folded everything carefully, like I was packing for a trip she was about to take. Even if she didn't know it yet. I didn't include a note. What could I possibly write? I saw everything. I know. Please leave. No. Too weak. You hurt me. You lied. Too obvious. Instead, I closed the suitcase slowly, zipped it, and placed it by the front door. Quietly. Intentionally. Then I went back to the kitchen, poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, and sat down at the table. When she got home, the sky was already dimming. I heard the car pull in, the door open, keys jingle, then silence. I didn't turn my head when I heard her footsteps pause in the entryway. "Jack?" she called, a mix of confusion and unease in her voice. I looked up. She was standing there, keys still in hand, staring at the suitcase. What's going on?" she asked, forcing a nervous laugh. "Are we going somewhere?" I didn't answer. Instead, I reached into my hoodie pocket and slid the envelope across the table. She stared at it, didn't move. "What's this?" Still, I didn't speak. Eventually, she walked over, picked it up, and slid out the photos. One by one, she looked through them. I watched her face closely, how her expression tightened on the second photo, the barely there twitch in her jaw when she saw the elevator one, and finally how her eyes dropped on the last. She didn't speak either. There were no words. None needed. She tried at first to open her mouth to form something, An excuse, a denial, a gasp. But nothing came out. Because what do you say to someone who already knows? What do you say when your lies have already turned to ash? She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't fall to her knees. She just stood there. I stood up and walked past her, out onto the porch. The air was cooler now, crisp, almost refreshing. Behind me, the front door clicked shut. She didn't follow. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt still, not healed, not whole, but something quieter than pain. Kate wasn't a mystery anymore. She was a solved equation, and I no longer needed to solve anything. The exposure didn't come in an argument, or a breakdown, or a teary confession. Came in silence, in images, in the suitcase by the door. That was the day the lies stopped. Not because she told the truth, but because she no longer had the room to deny it. She sat at the kitchen table like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome, not crying, not pacing, just still, hands folded, eyes fixed on the wood grain as if the answers were carved somewhere between the scratches and coffee rings. I stood by the counter, arms crossed, feeling strangely detached, like I was watching a scene play out through thick glass. "I can explain," she said finally. The words landed with a dull thud. Not sharp, not dramatic, just tired. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her. Not because I wanted to hear it, because I wanted it to end. "Go ahead," I said. My voice sounded calm, almost bored. That surprised me. She inhaled like she was about to dive underwater. "It started at work. A shared project. Late hours. We kept getting paired together and it felt easy." She looked up then, searching my face for something. Permission, maybe. Mercy. He listened. He noticed things. I didn't plan for it to cross a line. I nodded once. Not agreement, acknowledgement. Like checking off a box. "I didn't wake up one day wanting to hurt you," she continued. "I just felt invisible. Convenient. Like everything about me existed to keep things running smoothly." Her fingers tightened. With him, I felt chosen. Chosen. The word echoed. I thought about the years I'd chosen her. Every morning, every compromise, every plan. The word felt counterfeit in her mouth. "So you chose back," I said. She flinched. "I made a mistake." I shook my head slowly. "A mistake is forgetting milk." This was a pattern. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. I didn't mean for it to go that far. But it did. Silence stretched. The clock ticked. I wondered when it had gotten so loud. "I was tired of being the responsible one," she said. "Tired of being predictable. He made me feel different." "Different from what?" I asked. "From married." She winced. Tears finally welled. But they didn't move me. "I love you," she said quickly, like it was a password that might unlock the past. "I never stopped loving you." "That's the problem," I replied. "You think love is a feeling you keep while doing whatever you want." She reached across the table. I didn't take her hand. "We can fix this," she said. "Counseling. Time. I'll cut contact. I'll do anything." I leaned back and studied her. Not the woman I married, the woman in front of me now. "You already did anything," I said. "You did the thing that can't be undone." She cried then, quietly, the kind of crying meant to be endured, not heard. "I didn't think you'd leave," she admitted. That landed. Not because it hurt, but because it clarified everything. "You thought I'd stay," I said. "That I'd absorb it, adjust, like always." She nodded, ashamed. "I won't," I said. We sat there a long time. No yelling, no bargaining left. Just the truth, finally said aloud, losing its power as it breathed real air. "I'll be gone tonight," she said. "I know." She stood, hesitated, then walked toward the hallway. At the door, she stopped. "I'm sorry," she said again. I believed she meant it. It didn't change anything. When the door closed behind her, the house felt larger, emptier, honest. I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel loss. I felt finished. And that was enough. The next morning was the first time I made coffee for one. It shouldn't have felt like a milestone, but it did. There were no eggs in the pan, no second mug warming by the sink. No sleepy footsteps padding down the hallway, no familiar clearing of a throat from the bathroom. Just me, alone in the kitchen, staring at a quiet house that suddenly felt unfamiliar. It was like the silence had grown teeth. I sipped my coffee and stood at the window for a long time. I couldn't tell if it was grief or relief that sat in my chest like a stone. Probably both. I'd spent so long trying to avoid this exact outcome that I never paused to imagine what it would look like once the damage was done and acknowledged. I thought it would feel like losing something, and it did. But it also felt like finally dropping a weight I didn't know I was carrying. After breakfast, I opened my laptop and started the cleanup, the digital kind. Our shared calendar was the first to go. I deleted the recurring reminders she'd made for things like vet checkup, date night idea, and plant food day. I revoked her access to the shared grocery list. Removed her from the cloud storage folder that held everything from our honeymoon photos to tax documents. Then I changed my passwords, email, bank, Netflix, everything. I took her name off the emergency contact forms at work. Unlinked our Spotify. Unfollowed her burner Instagram account. It was petty, maybe. Or maybe it was survival. I didn't want pieces of her life dripping into mine anymore. I didn't want to be pinged when she added almond milk to a shopping list or tagged herself at a new brunch spot. I wanted separation. No, I needed it. Kate texted me around noon. Just a simple message. I'm staying at my sister's. I'll come by tomorrow to get the rest of my things. Please let me know if you'll be home. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to coordinate. She could come and go like a tenant finishing out the last days of a lease. My house, our house, had already started shedding her. The next day, she arrived while I was out. When I returned, her keys were on the counter in a neat little pile. Next to them sat the navy blue mug I always used, with "Good Morning," handsome printed in faded white letters. I stared at it for a full minute, then moved it to the back of the cupboard. Couldn't throw it out, not yet. But I couldn't stand to see it either. There was no note, no message, no voice left behind in any form. And weirdly, that felt fair. She had said what she needed to say, and I had heard it. Now the air between us wasn't full of tension or resentment. It was absence. Quiet, clean, final. In the evenings, I started filling my time with small things, organizing the garage, fixing the loose cabinet hinge, finally changing the filter in the HVAC. I made lists of things to improve. Paint colors. Lighting. I started keeping the bed made every morning. Not because anyone would see it, but because I needed a ritual, something steady. The bed felt too big now. I slept on one side only out of habit. The other half stayed cold. I didn't cry. Not once. But sometimes I'd sit in the hallway and listen to the quiet and wonder how we got here. How a relationship that once felt like home had become a hallway full of echoes. Kate tried to talk again. That weekend, she called twice. I didn't answer. Then she sent a voice message. I waited 2 days before I listened to it. Her voice was soft, measured. Jack, I know you're shutting me out right now, and I get it. I deserve it. I keep going back to all the versions of us that felt good. The mornings with bad coffee and music. That dumb ceramic cat we argued over in Rome. I still remember how you looked when you saw the ocean for the first time. I don't expect anything. I just hope you remember it too. I listened to it once, then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of mercy. She wanted me to remember a better version of us. And maybe someday I would, but not now. Not while the wound was still fresh and raw. Her attempt to reconnect came the next week. She showed up unannounced, holding a folder with names of marriage counselors. She said she'd found a good one with an opening. Said she'd booked a slot for both of us. Just in case. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't tell her to leave. I just looked at her, the woman I had built a life with, and realized how much effort I'd spent keeping something alive that had already died. I'm not going, I said. Her face crumpled. Please, Jack. Just one session. That's all I'm asking. You're asking me to treat a wound you created while still holding the knife. She looked away. Her hands tightened around the folder. You made choices. I continued, my voice calm. And I'm making mine now. This is me choosing myself. You don't get to rewrite that. She nodded slowly, tears spilling over. I miss you, she whispered. I miss who we were, I said. But I don't miss this. She left after that. I stood at the window and watched her walk down the driveway. She paused at her car, looked back once, and I thought for a second she might return. But she didn't, and that was the last time I saw her in person. In the days that followed, the house began to feel different. Not better, not worse, just real. Like I could finally see it for what it was, without her shape taking up space in the corners. I started buying groceries just for me. I stopped overthinking dinner. I stopped avoiding the mirror. I stopped listening for footsteps that no longer came. I talked to my brother on the phone for the first time in months. Reconnected with my old friend Greg for drinks. I even dug out my old camera and took a drive upstate just to shoot the sunrise. I hadn't done that in years. Turns out, it's easier to find yourself again when you're not spending all your energy trying to be what someone else wants. Sometimes people ask me what happened. I give the short version: we split. And when they ask why, I don't list her mistakes. I don't bring up the photos or the hotel or the lies. I just say, we stopped showing up for each other. She did it first. I just finished the job. Some people nod. Some people say nothing. But everyone understands in their own way. Kate tried one last time, an email this time. The subject line read, "Can we just talk?" I never opened it. I don't need to know what she said. Because at the end of the day, the split wasn't about lack of love. It was about the slow erosion of respect. The kind you only notice once it's gone. And once it's gone, you don't fight to bring it back. You protect what's left of yourself and you walk away. A few days later, I got a message from someone I didn't expect, Marissa. She introduced herself as the wife of him, the man from the photos. She'd seen the signs too and finally put the pieces together. We met once, briefly, in a coffee shop. She had everything: emails, receipts, calendar logs, even **TS. Together, we submitted it all to their company's HR department. No theatrics, just facts. Within a week, both Kate and her lover were fired. No severance, no glowing reference. I didn't feel joy watching it happen, but I did feel something quieter. Not revenge, not even closure, just justice. And that was enough. A week later, Kate texted. Said she wanted to talk, just dinner. Nothing serious. Against my better judgment, I went. She cooked. My favorite. Candlelight. Like nothing ever happened. Between bites, she looked at me and said, "You're just stuck in yourself. In all of this." That was it. The final drop. I set my fork down, stood, and walked out. No reply. No anger. Just quiet. For the first time in months, I wasn't trying to win or understand. I had simply stopped losing.